In our recent teaching about Nadab and Abihu, we concluded that God is a holy God and that God demands that we also be holy. Peter refers to God's words in Leviticus when he writes in 1 Peter 1:16, "Because it is written, Be ye holy, for I am holy." This verse begins with the word because, indicating that it is the reason for what came previously. We will examine the words Peter referred to in Leviticus as well as the words Peter spoke before this verse to answer the questions, what does it mean to be holy, and how is holiness connected to righteousness? I'm Brenda Cathcart, and this is Shadows of the Messiah. When Peter said, "It is written, Be holy, for I am holy," he is referring to two specific passages in Leviticus that describe holiness. The first is contained in chapter 11. It begins by stating that these words come directly from God to Moses, Leviticus 11, 1 and 2. "Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying to them, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, These are the animals which you may eat among all the animals that are on the earth." The entire chapter then lists specifically, in detail, the types of animals that the children of Israel may eat. This includes the prohibition of eating anything that dies of itself. The chapter concludes with a statement of God's reasoning, Leviticus 11, 44 through 47. "For I am the Lord your God. You shall therefore consecrate yourselves, and you shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall you defile yourselves with any creeping thing that creeps on the earth. For I am the Lord who brings you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law of the animals and the birds and every living creature that moves in the waters, and of every creature that creeps on the earth, to distinguish between the unclean and the clean, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten." In other words, God's reason is because I am your God and I said so. He gives no other reason, but backs up his authority to command what they can eat by stating he is the God who brought them out of Egypt. He is their God, and he has the authority to decide what is acceptable and what is not. When we look at the Hebrew for the words consecrate and holy, we learn that they are related. The word from which we get consecrate is number 6942, kadosh, a root word meaning to make ceremonially clean or pure. The word from which we get holy is number 6918, kadosh, a derivative of kadash, meaning to be ceremonially clean or pure. The English word consecrate means to set apart to a specific purpose. The word holy means to be set apart to God. Both of those definitions are consistent with the meaning to be ceremonially pure. God is telling the children of Israel that by restricting their diet, He is setting them apart to Him. This is one of the ways by which He means for them to be holy. There is nothing inherently wrong with eating animals that don't meet these requirements. It's just that God has placed a standard for those whom He called out or set apart for His service. When Moses was summarizing the requirements 40 years later as recorded in Deuteronomy, he says, "You can't eat it, but you can give it or sell it to the foreigners. They can eat it." Deuteronomy 14:21. "You shall not eat anything that dies of itself. You may give it to the alien who is within your gates, that he may eat it, or you may sell it to a foreigner, for you are a holy people to the Lord your God." In fact, after the flood, God told Noah that he could eat anything that lives. Genesis 9:3. "Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. I have given you all things, even as the green herbs." So why this restriction now? Just because God said so? He was in fact adamant about this, stating twice in the closing verses of chapter 11 that these were the instructions regarding eating meat, and that they were to be holy because He is holy. He said that eating those animals that were not on the approved list would defile them. The word defile is number 2930, tameh, meaning ceremonially unclean. Eating things not on the approved list would make them ceremonially unclean. Peter also referred to Leviticus 19. This chapter also starts with the Lord speaking directly to Moses, telling him how the children of Israel were to be holy or set apart to him. Leviticus 19, 1 and 2. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say to them, You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. The details that follow in this chapter are ones we are more comfortable with. They include all the provisions of the 10 Commandments or words recorded in Exodus 20, as well as other provisions for how to treat each other and how to treat the Promised Land. After each provision, God concludes with the words, I am the Lord your God. For example, verses 3 and 4 are, Every one of you shall revere his mother and his father and keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. Do not turn to idols, nor make for yourselves molded gods. I am the Lord your God. Another one of these provisions is one we tend to think originated in the New Testament, but is in fact from the Torah, about the motivations of the heart. Leviticus 19, 17 and 18. You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall surely rebuke your neighbor and not bear sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. When we look at all these provisions in chapter 19, we see that following them involves respect. Respect for God, respect for each other, and respect for the land. If you haven't read Leviticus 19 for a long time, take the time to do so this week. But the reason they are to follow these provisions? Because God is the Lord. For the first time, God is taking a group of people and specifically setting them aside for His purpose. In this instance, they are to be a whole nation of people whose God is the Lord. When the children of Israel were on the brink of entering the Promised Land, God renewed the covenant with them, calling them His special people. Deuteronomy 26, 18 and 19. Also today, the Lord has proclaimed you to be His special people, just as He promised you that you should keep all His commandments, and that He will set you high above all nations which He has made, in praise, in name, and in honor, and that you may be a holy people to the Lord your God, just as He has spoken. All the nations of the world were to witness the relationship between God and His people, and recognize the wisdom of God's statutes, precepts, and laws. Look at Deuteronomy 4, 6 through 8. Therefore be careful to observe them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples who will hear all these statutes and say, Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what great nation is there that has God so near to it as the Lord our God is to us? For whatever reason we may call upon Him. And what great nation is there that has such statutes and righteous judgments as are in all this law which I set before you this day? God didn't stop here, however, in setting people apart from Him. From all the children of Israel, God chose the tribe of Levi to be specially set apart for Him. Numbers 3, 5 through 7. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Bring the tribe of Levi near, and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him, and they shall attend to his needs and the needs of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of meeting, to do the work of the tabernacle. The Levites were set apart specifically to assist the priests and take care of the needs of the tabernacle and all its accessories. Their unique service to God sets them apart from the rest of Israel. They were also chosen in place of the firstborn. When God killed all the firstborn in Egypt, God set apart all the firstborn of the womb as holy to Him. But now He is replacing them with the entire tribe of Levi. Numbers 3, 11 through 13. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Now, behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel instead of every firstborn who opens the womb among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. On the day that I struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast. They shall be mine. I am the Lord. The Levite service to God is a continual reminder of how God brought the children of Israel out of slavery in Egypt and into the freedom of a new life in their own land, free to worship God. But God continues to set apart a people from the Levites. All the sons of Aaron are to be set apart to be priests to God. They have special requirements that they must observe in order to be set apart from the rest of Israel. Leviticus chapter 21 details the requirements. They could not be in the presence of the dead except for that of a close relative. They could not shave their heads. Their brides must be virgins or widows. Physically, they had to be without blemish. Finally, God chose one person to be most holy to Him, the high priest. The high priest could not be in the presence of the dead, not even his father or mother. His bride must be a virgin from among the tribes of Israel. From all of mankind, God chose one nation to be holy to Him. From that nation, He chose one tribe to further set apart to Him. From that tribe, He chose one family to be further set apart to Him. From that family, He chose one man to be the high priest. This increasing sanctity can be seen in the camp in the wilderness. The tabernacle of God was at the center of the camp. The Levites were closest to the tabernacle, located on all four sides. Numbers 2:17. And the tabernacle of meeting shall move out with the camp of the Levites in the middle of the camps. As they camp, so they shall move out, everyone in his place by their standards. The priestly family of Aaron and his sons, together with Moses, were nearest of all on the east side where the entrance was located. Numbers 3:38. Moreover, those who were to camp before the tabernacle on the east, before the tabernacle of meeting, were Moses, Aaron, and his sons, keeping charge of the sanctuary to meet the needs of the children of Israel. But the outsider who came near was to be put to death. The tribes of Israel surrounded the Levites on all four sides. Numbers 2:1 and 2. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Every one of the children of Israel shall camp by his own standard, beside the emblems of his father's house. They shall camp some distance from the tabernacle of meeting. The mixed multitude from other nations that had joined the children of Israel in their exodus from Egypt camped outside of the tribes of Israel. The pattern that we see in the arrangement of the camp and in the sanctity of individual groups is that those most holy to God are able to come nearer to God. Sanctity or holiness, then, is not about righteousness or salvation, but about the ability to come near to God. What if someone who is not a priest or a Levite desires to draw near to God? How can that person approach God? There are two ways for a person to draw near to God. One way to draw near is to take a Nazirite vow. Look at Numbers 6:1 and 2. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When either a man or a woman consecrates an offering, to take the vow of a Nazirite, to separate himself to the Lord. The word separate in this passage is the Hebrew word number 5144, nazar, meaning to hold aloof, to abstain, to separate. The word Nazirite comes from this root word nazar. The requirements for the Nazirite vow are similar to that of the priesthood. The Nazirite, then, is one who devotes himself to the service of God for a specific period of time. Another way to draw near to God is through bringing a burnt offering. Leviticus 1:1 through 3. Now the Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tabernacle of meeting, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When any one of you brings an offering to the Lord, you shall bring your offering of the livestock of the herd and of the flock. If his offering is a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own free will at the door of the tabernacle of meeting before the Lord. The word brings in verse 2 is number 7126, karav, meaning to bring near. The word offering is number 7133, korban, meaning that which is brought near. So God is saying in verse 2 that if anyone brings near that which is brought near to the Lord, bring near that which you bring near of the livestock of the herd and of the flock. The emphasis is that to come near to God, you bring a burnt sacrifice that brings you near to God. Paul tells us that Yeshua's blood allows us to draw near to God. We don't have to be one of the children of Israel. Even the stranger or Gentile can draw near to God through the blood of Yeshua. Ephesians 2:11-13. Therefore remember that you, once Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by what is called the circumcision, made in the flesh by hands, that at that time you were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. But now in Christ Jesus you who once were far off have been brought near by the blood of Christ. Peter tells us that those of us who draw near to God are to be holy because He is holy. We learned that to be holy means to be set apart to God, and that God is the one who tells us how we are to be set apart. He has given us His instructions on holiness in His scriptures. Next week in part 2, we will examine the context of Peter's words about being holy. Thanks for watching today. I'm Brenda Cathcart, and this has been Shadows of the Messiah. Shalom and be blessed.
Thank you for watching today's video presentation. Brenda and I invite you to visit our website at moedministries.com, where you will find some valuable free resources for you to share with your family and neighbors. On our teaching ministry page, you will find links to materials for use in small home group Bible studies, such as our 4-volume Shadows of the Messiah in the Torah series. Also available is Divine Appointments with God, an in-depth study of the feasts of the Lord. We have recorded free video sessions available on our website at the Feast Study tab to supplement the Leader's Guide and companion student workbooks available in our online bookstore. Both the Shadows of Messiah in the Torah and the Divine Appointments with God make great family, small group, or even individual Bible studies. Several of our other books and videos are also available in our bookstore, so please visit our website today at moedministries.com. That's Moed, M-O-E-D, Ministries, all one word, .com. And be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Again, thanks for watching today. Shalom and be blessed.